how do you define beauty? In society, there's so many things that we call beautiful. We could call a baby's face beautiful. Sometimes we describe movies as beautiful. Certainly, landscapes and natural elements strike us as beautiful. Paintings, sometimes a goal in an overtime game, it can be described as a beautiful performance or comeback. Dancing, architecture, even a spreadsheet, I think, has been described as beautiful. So, what really is beauty? With all these discrepant definitions, I think that's why we've come to the often heard colloquialism, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. We like to say it's an individual choice and often informed culturally. But then how do we explain the fact that facial symmetry is ranked as beautiful across all continents, across all cultures? So perhaps it's not quite as simple as the things we learn culturally. Today, we're going to take on the origins of beauty, and we hope that you guys come along for the ride. Well, there's nothing like a second take on a show because we fucked up the first take. This is Woodworking is Bullshit, your favorite podcast about why we do the things we do, not how we do the things we do. I'm your host, Paul Jasper of Copper Pig Woodworking. And of course, I got my boy in the chair across the screen, Eric Curtis, fine furniture maker.
Taco Bell, motherfuckers.
And content creator. You came in early, Eric.
Sorry. You paused in a weird way. I thought that was my opening.
No.
I messed up the intro. Fuck.
You were like loving on your dog, and you were
Speaking
sorry.
of beautiful, man, that's a nice looking dog.
He's a good boy.
That other voice that you hear is none other than painter extraordinaire, our good friend Jeff Hein. Jeff, thanks for joining us on this topic.
Oh man, I'm excited to be back
For a third time.
Third time. Second time on air, yeah.
We tried to record this show. It didn't quite work out for a number of reasons that we're not going to get into.
Listen, we've said it before on the show. We take creative risks, and sometimes those don't pay out. You know, that's the definition of risk.
So this is our second crack at it, which means I think we'll have a little bit of a different tone than perhaps the first try, but maybe it's better. But I am going to start off the same way, which is to say this episode is about the idea of beauty. Is it inherent to the human condition? Is it part of who we are genetically? Is it culturally learned? Is it both? This was a question that Jeff came up with. Jeff, can you give us an example of why you thought of this question in the first place?
Well, I would add one more category. Were we created with a certain collective appreciation for beauty? And that's what I think about. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I'm a biblical painter, so I'd be quite a hypocrite if I didn't believe the things I painted. But I will say, I don't know anything. I don't know about this topic. I mean, I know something about it, but I don't know what we're going to discuss, what the prognosis is. You know, it's just interesting to think about. And throughout my entire career doing paintings, I've often thought to myself, why do I study design if there are so many rules of design that I have been taught appeal to the masses? I myself being one of the masses, technically, if it appeals to me on a root genetic level, then I shouldn't have to be trained. I should just know what's beautiful when I see it and paint it. I shouldn't need training. So I've thought a lot about it because I am kind of an instinctual artist. I use artist loosely because I feel like it's a label I don't like to put on myself, but a maker maybe. I'm very intuitive and I don't have a lot of great training, but I know a lot of the rules of design, and I often think that I don't pay attention to them as much as I pay attention to my intuition. And so I've wondered how much is ingrained in me and everyone, and how much is taught through just nurture or literally academically taught in school and so on?
So, Paul, I know you want to get into the science behind things because that's who you are, and that's why we love you. But I do just I want to push back on the intuition component of it a little bit, Jeff, just from a personal perspective, because I don't think I have that intuition. And I understand, like, your argument is perfectly logical. You're like, if I am human and human, there is an understood, like, universal beauty that human can access, then I should just be able to access beauty, right?
That's a big if. That's what we're talking about right now.
Sure. But like that is a perfectly legitimate line of logic in theory. But then you have clowns like me who I can build, like the mechanical building of things has always made sense to my brain and to my hands. I can do that. I pick it up very easily. You see it and you go like, okay, there's the triangle. I just, like from the time I was like 7 years old, to be like, I could figure out how to make that. That makes sense. But what I couldn't do was intuit what made a thing look beautiful and how to achieve beauty. What I could intuit was that the things that I was making were not beautiful. So there
you recognized the lack of beauty. You just didn't know. Yes. You didn't know for lack of a better word, the formula to get to beauty.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what it was, right? And we've talked about this in prior episodes, and especially in the episode with Jack about the elements and principles of design. It wasn't until I discovered the elements and principles and that formula, that equation, that math equation that like allows you to add and subtract elements and principles to get to beautiful. That was when it started to make sense to me.
So when you design a piece of furniture, you literally go through a checklist of rules of design in order to make sure you're not going down an ugly road.
Well, yeah, to some extent. Yeah.
Really?
Like still to this day, I cross-reference the elements and principles constantly to be like, what is the one that I am focusing on? Is the focus clear on that, or am I doing too many things? Is it too distracting? How do I minimize the distractions of all of the other principles that I'm utilizing to make sure that everybody knows, like, I'm using rhythm in this piece, or I'm using texture in this piece, because it doesn't naturally occur to me that like that is the direction the piece is headed. And I have to math it out, which is ironic because I'm shit at math. You know?
Yeah, but that's simple math, right?
Sure. It's addition and subtraction.
Yeah,
right?
It's not complicated.
So again, I think your logic holds water even in the example that I use, because what I'm saying is I could intuit that it's not right. But I couldn't figure out how to get to right until somebody broke it down for me in an accessible way.
So the thought that comes to my mind is maybe if it is sort of a divine thing, maybe God just has his favorites, you know? And, so
and you're not it, Eric.
I was half a second away from a spit take on that, buddy.
So, Eric, oh my goodness. Eric, you're obviously not the favorite.
I mean, I'm a middle child. Of course I'm not the favorite.
So, Eric, you said, I'm going to push back on you, is what you said to Jeff. And I'm going to push back on you, pushing back on Jeff, because
it's a real circle jerk of pushing.
Ooh. Please don't. I didn't know the elements of art and principles of design until about 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
What?
I had no idea. No. I'd never heard of them.
You've got some serious intuition then. Because your designs, well, so are Eric's, but he claims to be doing it mathematically. Dude, you got some good instincts.
It's pure instinct all the time. There's no thinking. There's no I didn't even know what they were until 2 episodes ago.
And you're from a scientific background.
I know. I didn't go to art school. None of this. I just kind of made it up as I went along. And I was like, but I know what I like. And Jeff, I think it's what you're talking about. Like, I just follow my gut, and my gut knows. I know very, very quickly if I like something or I don't like something, meaning something I'm making. And I know it instantly, and I know why. I can put my finger on it. So there's something in my brain. There's something in my brain that's guiding my decisions on what is beautiful versus what is not.
Yeah, and I would argue that, Eric, you got the same thing. It's just because if you recognize ugly, you recognize the lack of beauty, how is that different than recognizing beauty?
That's it. And again, I admit that your argument, I'm not saying that your argument is wrong. It's perfectly sound and logical. What I'm saying is
His argument's right.
I think I think the gap in the argument as it stands is that like you can intuit what is beautiful. And I don't think without the help of somebody else who could break it down and teach me how to get to beautiful, I couldn't bridge that gap. So there is something very human about like looking at beautiful objects, looking at the objects that I had made up to that point and going like, those two things qualitatively, those two things are not the same, but I don't know how to get from A to B.
Yeah, but Eric, that's just a personal, that's just like saying every human's different. Some have more aptitudes towards something and some, we're all obviously,
Let me tell you a story about
that sentence was, Paul.
No,
that was 4 different sentences that you ended.
Sorry,
and it just
sorry.
Went,
what I'm saying is, it's not about Jeff's argument. Jeff's argument is correct. It's just like some people have it in a more raw, natural form, and others learn it, and that goes to all of us about different things. Some, like I had to learn certain things that didn't come natural to me, like music. Music is not a natural fit, and I practiced the fuck out of it to be able to do it, and I still wasn't that good. So it's like I lack an aptitude for like I don't have the it factor for music. I tried for 12 years and I don't have it, but I do have it for just recognizing when something looks good or doesn't, and why, at least in my own work, and how to make things. That's just in my brain automatically. I never had to learn a thing about it. It just was there.
So what do you do when in this line of argument or this line of thinking, what do you do when somebody comes to the conclusion that something is beautiful that you disagree with that it is beautiful?
Oh,
because we're starting from the assumption that there is a universal beauty standard.
Yeah.
Let me back up a little bit, because I got to tell you an anecdote here. Because you guys keep saying my argument is right. At least Paul does for the most part.
Yeah, don't put those words in my mouth, Jeff.
Jeff's the chosen one, and I want to be on his good side.
It's not an argument, though. It's a question. I'm not even standing behind it, really. It's a question. And this is why it's a question. Because when I was a kid, so as you two know, I'm also a maker, right? I like to make lots of things, but my dad, I think I get that genetic component from my dad. He could make anything. I mean, I idolized my dad. He could just build anything, and he built it amazingly well. And he seemed to know everything about everything. But one day, I remember I was like 12 years old, maybe even younger, and I'm standing in his shop, and he's making a cabinet, and for my mom, I think it was Mother's Day or something, and I'm looking at the cabinet, and he's putting the doors together, and he had all the rails and stiles all the same width. And I'm 12 years old. I know nothing about cabinets. And not only that, but he had the reveal between the door and the edge of the cabinet, the face frame of the cabinet, the same all the way around. And I thought, well, that looks okay, but I feel like it needs more weight on the bottom, And I remember thinking that at 12 years old, and I said it to my dad, and he's like, no, I think it's fine. And I remember at that point recognizing that while my dad is a great craftsman, he didn't have the aesthetics that I later realized that I had naturally. So I don't know that it is like, it's not innate at the same level for everybody.
That's right.
I know that for a fact, but it still leaves an open question of whether or not it is programmed in us in general, right? Because clearly we're programmed to do a lot of things as human beings, but some people do them better than others, but it's part of our programming, right? Doesn't mean it has to be equal across all humanity.
Jeff, this is a wonderful segue into the science of beauty. So what is part of the human condition with regards to beauty and what is not? Science has studied this for a long period of time. And the way you study it is to rule out the cultural conditioning we have. You would do this study about whether something's beautiful or not across all cultures, or many, many cultures across many continents. And if they all agree that this thing's beautiful, it largely is not a cultural, but rather a genetic bias. You can also use children who are pre-cultured. Like if you can like detect brain activity, or you see certain behaviors in children who have not yet been cultured, perhaps that speaks to a genetic basis. So there's a big literature about the science behind beauty. And there are really, I would say there's four main studies and conclusions that have come up from the research literature about what humans instinctively, genetically, heritably find beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The first that we could talk about, that I already mentioned in the pre-show, is facial symmetry. So facial symmetry is across all cultures, across all groups, something people find beautiful. And in fact, when you see good facial symmetry, uh, pleasure centers in your brain show activity by MRI. So it's not just like a feeling. There is brain activity that doesn't happen if there is not good facial symmetry. So your brain is genetically programmed to recognize that symmetry, and there's a universal preference for that.
Can I ask a question, Paul?
Yeah.
Is that, and I don't know if you have this information, is that study or is that data specifically about facial symmetry? Because I'm assuming that it's just symmetry in general, right? Like something
Well,
feels at home and at ease in
yeah.
I would have
place
assumed
of
it's just
stasis,
facial.
that it's symmetry in general.
I'm sure the literature probably has 1,000 or more papers in it about symmetry and our reactions to it. I'm sure they've studied both. I
Okay.
know it's facial symmetry for sure. I know
Yeah.
that is like the result, but I wouldn't be surprised if in general, I mean, look how symmetrical so much
The world is, right?
the world.
I
I mean,
actually would
yeah,
be
yeah.
surprised.
If
But
people prefer general symmetry
no, I
over
think,
asymmetry.
well, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so-
I'll just quickly just say this, and then we'll get to it later, I'm sure. But I mean, I think that the rule of thirds is generally, when we're dealing with paintings, buildings, furniture, people tend to prefer asymmetry. But it makes sense with a human being. Maybe not. I don't
It
know.
does.
Something to talk about.
It
But with a
does.
human being, it makes sense, and I'm sure you're going to explain why.
Yeah, no, I don't know why. It's just there. The data supports that we love facial symmetry, but I think we also like symmetry in our bodies too. Like one short arm and one long arm or big arm looks kind of fucked up, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's been my problem for 38 years, man. That's why I can't get a date.
All right, so facial symmetry is one thing that's been proven out of the scientific literature. Another one is the Savannah hypothesis. I think this is fascinating.
This one throws me off a little bit.
Yeah, when you show people images of landscapes, it could be like a Yosemite landscape, it could be a rainforest, it could be a desert, it could be a tundra, it could be a savanna. Humans across cultures, across continents, always show a strong, statistically significant preference for a savanna landscape. And what that means is like wide openness fields, some trees, a water element, usually some animals, and even a path. That tends to be what most groups prefer, even groups, Jeff, that don't live in savannas. And that's
I find
hard
that
to
one
explain.
so strange.
But it holds up to scientific rigor. Apparently, there's a big literature on the Savannah hypothesis.
Why do
What
you
about
find
you
that strange, Jeff?
What about you? Well, for one, I don't find it beautiful.
You don't find the savanna beautiful?
I find the whole planet beautiful, but relative to other landscapes, not the whole planet. I mean, Nevada.
I was gonna say, you've been to some places, brother.
Yeah, God did the whole rest of the planet, and then the seventh day He forgot about Nevada.
Have we been to Nebraska? Like, for fuck's sake, come on.
No, I don't. I mean, maybe it's from. Well, you guys are from the East. What are your thoughts? I mean, when I'm in the mountains, surrounded in the middle of a forest, and particularly when there's moisture, and it's just, I feel like this coziness inside the canopy of trees. To me, that's the most beautiful. But I've met a lot of people that just want wide open spaces, and so I realize that's just personal. But if I looked at the study, just because I am not one of those people that would have chosen the savanna over what I just described, I'm assuming it's not 100% agreement in the study.
Of course not. Of
Yeah.
course not.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I imagine that. So first of all, I agree with you 100%. To me, one of the most beautiful landscapes on the planet is a lush mountainous landscape.
Yeah.
Like it is being in a higher elevation. It's pine trees, it's deciduous trees, it's water, it's that coziness that you described, right? Like I have, but so in that circumstance, I know, like if we're thinking early hominid, a million years ago, I know I have fuel for fire. I know I have running water, presumably clean water that's not stale, stagnant, full of parasites and whatnot. I know I have materials to build shelters with. It's also what I grew up around. I grew up in upstate New York, right? So I personally find it beautiful, but it's a resource rich area. The savanna, if you include things like the streams, like a couple of animals roaming, a couple of trees in the distance, there are resources there to be utilized and survive. Whereas if you show a photo of a desert, you immediately are like, oh boy, that's going to be a struggle, you know? So I wonder how much that kind of mentality of resource acquisition plays into what we find beautiful.
Eric, you nailed it. If you go deeper into the savanna hypothesis and the studies, it's not that they like the savanna per se. It's that the elements that are typically placed in the savanna, moving, running water, animals, open sight lines, and some trees, and like resources, essentially, safety and resources, those are what people are preferring. It's not necessarily the biome of the savanna. Do you see what I'm saying?
Open meaning nothing can come out from behind a tree right next to you. You can see. Yeah.
You can see threats at a distance. You can see what's going on. You feel comfortable and safe. So Eric, you're exactly right. It could be a mountainous landscape, but if that has those same elements, which is food, water, shelter, safety, sightlines, that mountain example could very well be just as provocative as
well, and to go the other way, to paint a dissonant picture in the other direction, I just said I find the mountains to be some of the most serene, beautiful places on the planet, and I have solo camped in the Rockies, in the northern Rockies, and in open grizzly country. And I remember, I'll just use one particular night as an example. It is one of the most serene, most beautiful valleys I've ever been to, northern Montana. Somewhere, I can't remember the exact location, north of Paradise Valley. Like I was on my way up to Glacier, and I drive into this valley, and over a course of, I think, 8 miles, there are only 6 campsites. So there's nothing around. There is nobody for miles. And I drove the length of the road to see if anybody's around, because I'm by myself and I want to know if I scream bloody murder, is somebody going to hear me, right? So I drive the length, nobody's there. I set up camp. There's a creek like just on the other side of the road. I can hear it kind of matriculating down the mountain. There are birds around, and I'm just sitting there on the camp chair, cooking dinner over the fire. The tent is set up. Everything is ready to go. And it is picturesque. Like it is the shit that people take photos and sell to Nat Geo over. And I'm sitting there, and that there's just this sense that comes over me of just like, I don't know if I'm safe. And I didn't see a grizzly. I don't have any reason to believe logically, sight-wise, sensory-wise, that there was a predator there. But I just had that like sixth sense in the back of my, like tingling down my spine. And I sat with it for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And I stood up at sunset and I packed up camp and I drove to a Walmart parking lot and I slept there for the night. Because there was just a thing of just like, so you're in a resource-rich environment. You're in this thing that people like, you post a bunch of stories on Instagram about, but you also recognize in that moment how vulnerable you are because you lack critically for the savanna, the sight lines to know that there are no predators right around the tree.
You can't see. Yeah. 50 feet away, you can't really tell.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So what you're suggesting is that, well, from the beauty one, you didn't mention this, but I think I know what you were getting at. The beauty one, you're looking at symmetry because it represents a healthy mate.
It represents genetic health.
Genetic health, right? And you obviously want to choose 100%. A healthy mate to produce offspring with. And then the landscape, you prefer it because of resources, safety, shelter, and so on.
Correct.
So it's all about some sort of evolutionary preservation type of thing. The
Yeah,
question
absolute-
is,
Yeah, go
why
ahead.
beauty? Why does it, why, a mountain pops up because of a series of earthquakes out of nowhere? It's just an arbitrary raising of the ground, right? And then trees just pop up arbitrarily. Streams, they dig their own paths and they end up wherever they end up. And
Well-
yet somehow we interpret all that as
Yeah.
not just safety, but beauty. But yet
Yeah.
nature is so arbitrary.
But Jeff, it represents symbolically resources. Like you said, a tree represents like cover or shelter or resource. Water represents something to drink, and that represents that food will be around. Animals will be around, which means food, right?
Right. But the question is, from an evolutionary standpoint, why not just feel the sensation or the emotion of safety and comfort? Why is it beauty? Why, when we're sitting in the savannah, do we not just like, oh, this landscape looks safe. It looks like I can make shelter. But no, we're like, oh, it's just picturesque.
Okay.
It seems like sort of a
posit
backdoor
hypothesis.
Yes.
I have an answer.
I hear what you're saying, and again, I don't disagree with your logic. Like that is a scientific, like, this is resources and this is good, but it is not necessarily beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is, and I'm pulling this out of my ass, but I think this is the fundamental basis of my argument as to where I stand on like whether beauty is inherent or learned or cultural, et cetera, et cetera. If you have that environment, that is the type of environments that humans have exploited over millennia,
through million years.
To settle and make community, to settle and bring civilization,
Correct.
to create culture. And over generations, people aren't necessarily looking at that river and going like safety. People are looking at the Amazon River and going like, that's full of fucking predators. That's going to eat me alive. But because you have this thing where it is water, so I can make a settlement next to it. And now my children grow up here and my children grow older and they start to create culture around the campfire. And then they tell stories of when we were younger. And as soon as you start to link place and nostalgia, like it can teeter on beautiful very quickly. Like it becomes a beautiful memory. And then over generations, it becomes the standard of like what is desired. And the standard of what is desired is really all that beauty is, right? Like it is a thing to be desired, beauty. So I think maybe it is just a generational thing where over hundreds and thousands and millions of generations, we go like this Garden of Eden, as it were, was beautiful because it existed in perfection, but it only exists in perfection in our generational memories and cultural memories.
So
Eric,
the safety is innate, but the beauty is learned.
No, that doesn't explain, Eric. Your nostalgia,
I think I'm linking the two.
Argument doesn't explain the fact that people who have never seen those environments also found them preferable.
Oh, we all came from those environments, though.
Right, but the whole nostalgia part of your argument and storytelling and that part doesn't pertain to people who haven't seen it or their cultures haven't heard stories about it. Anyway,
Sure.
What's
it's an
your
imperfect
theory?
argument.
well, so let me get to the last two and then let's summarize the argument.
Oh, I don't want to forget. This is good. Okay.
So the last two. So it was facial symmetry is beautiful across all cultures, across all countries. A Savannah hypothesis has some really provocative elements of that regard. Facial averageness, that the most attractive face is formed when you take, let's say, 1,000 images and superimpose them on each other to get the quote unquote average face. This was performed a long time ago, I think in the 70s or 50s, and it was recently reproven through modern technology that we tend to find the average face more beautiful than say any of the individuals or most of the individuals, and they suggest that is again a genetic marker of diversity. We like a well-mixed outbred population of humans, and we find the more diverse the more diversity, which is the collapsing of all these influences swirling together, that is beautiful. And that is, again, genetic health. Humans die from outbreeding, right?
So in other words, if you're mating with your cousin,
Inbreeding. Yeah.
if you have a massive nose and you're mating with your cousin with a massive
Yeah.
nose, that's a problem. And
Yeah.
your baby's going to have a massive nose and so on and so forth.
Correct. But it's much more serious than a massive nose. If you have any genetic abnormality that has to do with health, you multiply that when you mate with someone you're closely related to.
Right. But the sign we're talking about is outward.
The
Yeah.
sign is facial, yes, but
Right.
that is a proxy for overall health. So
Right.
the facial averageness, mathematically average faces being the most attractive, points to a deep genetic preference for immune diversity over individual inbred distinctiveness. Right, that's the third one. The fourth one is rectilinear versus curvilinear. This is something we've talked about a lot. I know my whole experiment with Stadia Box is it comes up out of this literature. People prefer curves in general over sharp angles and sharp lines. Now it's not 100 and 0. It's a slight preference, but it's statistically reproducible across culture, across generation. And you say, why do we prefer curves? And there's two hypotheses, one of which Eric raised the last time we tried this. The first hypothesis why we prefer curves over sharpness is safety. Sharp things are dangerous. They cut us, they hurt us, they maim us. Teeth, claws, glass, anything that can hurt you is typically sharp. That's one hypothesis. The other is that, well, the human form, you're brought into this world against your mother's bosom, right? And like the human figure is very beautiful. A lot
It's
of
all
us
very
would agree,
Freudian, man.
and very curvilinear, and perhaps that explains it. So those are the four: the Savannah hypothesis, facial symmetry, facial averageness, and rectilinear, curvilinear. Now, each of those maps to, I think, what is a basic human drive. The Savannah is food and shelter and safety. The facial symmetry is genetic health. Facial averageness, genetic health, right? And you avoid inbreeding. And curvilinear versus rectilinear is safety, or again, I don't know how to couch the whole human figure. Maybe that's some sort of sexual, there's some sort of sexual basis to that. But all of these map onto the human thrusts, which is food, safety, shelter, and sexual reproduction, procreation. Now, if we accept, and there's more, this is not exhaustive, guys, right? If we accept that those are kind of the pillars at the bottom, those are like the inescapable, fundamental pillars of what all humans, and the data suggests this, all humans find preferable or beautiful. Like, it's hard to know like how to define it, but certainly there's a human inclination for these things across culture, across distance. Then the question becomes, all right, so those are the foundational pieces, and there's more. I'm sure we're missing a whole bunch. But let's set that aside and say, well, now we have culture. We learn a lot of what's beautiful. We're affected by culture, right? Let's think of some. In Western culture, what? Having a tan skin. Oh boy, right? Some cultures love it pale, and some love it super tan.
So-
eyebrows, facial hair, body type. Right?
I was just going to say, Paul,
Go ahead, Eric.
very briefly, an anecdote. I think I've mentioned on the podcast before that I spent a semester in Uganda when I was in college. I was over there for 6 months living with a family.
Is that when you almost got eaten by a hippo?
Yeah, twice.
Stop.
In the same
That
day.
really happened?
Oh, that
Yeah,
was
he
100%. Yeah. I'll tell you,
I
that's
gotta
like a
hear about
20-minute
that later.
story. It's a great
I
story.
wanna hear about that
Maybe,
later.
Is that the after show story?
After show.
Oh,
Eric almost got killed by
it's
a
a
hippo.
banger. It's a banger. Okay.
Sheesh.
So, but anyway, what I was going to say, as soon as you brought up tan and skin color, immediately I went to the facial average statistic, because yes, we often do the thing in this culture of like, oh, you know, you're looking tan. You look like you got some sun. Like, you're looking good. You're looking healthy. And whilst I was over there, and I remember it so starkly because it was so, I was 19, 20. It was so unexpected that a lot of the beauty standards, at least in that particular region in 2007, were about getting paler, African women getting paler, because that meant that you weren't out in the sun all day doing manual labor, and you had the luxury to be inside or in the shade out of the sun. And it's so funny how just like wherever you are, your goal is to get somewhere you're not, or
interesting.
in that case, toward the average.
Well, because in Western culture, out in the sun means you can afford vacations.
Right. Exactly.
You can afford luxury. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So are these cultural signs of beauty more like signaling to the members of your community about your wealth and your power? Because that brings us to Acheulean hand axes. Because I did want to bring this up. One of the earliest ever cited parts of beauty in human precursors are these so-called Acheulean hand axes. Dude, Jack brought this up. I don't know, was it like
I
8
think about
shows
these
ago?
all the time. Yeah.
Okay. If Jack out of nowhere goes, do you guys know what Acheulean hand axes is? And Eric and I were like, what the fuck?
How do you spell that again?
Acheulean.
Lean.
I think Lian, but anyway.
Maybe Google.
I may have spelled it wrong.
Okay.
So
ahead.
Acheulean hand axes, these were discovered by the thousands across multiple continents, Africa, Asia, Europe. They are these, what seem to be tools that evolved in our human precursors. So this is 1 million plus years ago.
So I'm only getting the actual axe head. So there's no
So
handle.
it's a hand axe, right?
That's the only thing that's preserved.
Using it's a sharpened stone.
Okay, I was picturing like a handle. Okay.
Yeah. So about 2.5 million years ago, there are examples of choppers, like hand-based stones that were used to chop things that they found in the Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, Africa, made by Homo, I'm not even sure what, Homo erectus, one of our, precursors, one of the hominid precursors to humans, 2.5 million years ago. Guys, they think humans as a species, Homo sapien, arrived a few 100,000 years ago, maybe 500,000, 400,000. We're talking 2.5 million years ago. We're talking like Neanderthal, these hominid precursors are not that many steps away from a monkey, let's say. They were making these choppers 2.5 million years ago that we've been finding, of course, carbon dated. And then what they found is these big choppers that showed evidence of a lot of use evolved into Acheulean hand axes over time. And as I said, this is now about 1.5 million years ago, and they found so many of them by the thousands across multiple continents. And why they think this is important, and it comes to our conversation about signaling to other humans desirable traits, is that these Acheulean hand axes, they were made of beautiful materials. They had unbelievable workmanship. Like, you can't believe how well made some of them are. And many of them show no evidence whatsoever of use on their delicate, razor sharp edges. And so the hypothesis is that these began as a functional element that then evolved as the earliest works of art. So function transversing into fitness signals. Now, what do I mean by fitness signals? I mean, some bad mojo who's going to make an Acheulean hand axe, right? Some bad motherfucker out there 1 million years ago is like, check out my axe. It's made of the rarest materials. It's got virtuosic craftsmanship, and it's way bigger than that other guy's. So it shows.
As are some other things, you know what I'm saying?
It's smaller, as the case may be. But that is basically signaling to members. This is even before language developed, they think. This is before spoken language. That this signaled intelligence, fine motor control, perseverance, traits that are desirable among mates, but are not necessarily genetic per se. Well, no, I guess those can be genetic, but do you see what I'm saying? Like these are symbols, like I'm a catch, and here's what, check this out. So I just found this whole conversation about Acheulean hand axes to be very compelling.
I love everything about it. I'm
crazy.
wondering, Paul, where this example falls, like for you to make an argument about whether beauty is inherent.
Yeah.
So is this the type of thing that like somebody who wanted to attract a mate knew intuitively that they had to make a more beautiful hand axe? So they set about making it, and they, like you said, you have the ability, Jeff, like you said, you had the ability, could intuit that this was just better proportioned, that the line was straighter, that the curve was a little more sensual, and it worked. And so therefore it drew, I don't know how to phrase that, like higher quality mates, like more desirable mates, whatever you want to phrase it. Or just more mates, whatever it is.
Eric,
or
is
it a cultural thing where like they knew that to their culture, the sharpest edge was the most valuable thing, because, and now all we see are the remnants of like the one that happened to survive is the one with a very sensual curve at the hand component of it.
Great question, Eric. And I don't know the answer, but I do think it's sexual signaling. Like a peacock, like peacocks evolved to show this incredible display, right, to mates. Like, and there's no other purpose for the colors and the extraordinary patterns than to attract a mate for sexual reproduction. So perhaps flexing your skills as a maker, I can make this. I can bring in food. I can make weapons. Perhaps that was some sort of symbolic gesture to early hominid mates.
Well, that's got to be old as time. I mean, I think it's proven contemporary life that women tend to be more attracted to men who are competent.
That's right.
Men who can provide,
and
even though we're not in an economy where a man can provide anymore, really. But they're still attracted. Nobody can, right?
And women can provide their own.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
money,
nobody
right?
can provide in this economy. Come on.
But the point is, I think, I was talking to one of my students the other day, and I don't remember how it even came up. Oh, she was visiting her new boyfriend's family, and her boyfriend's family's rich, and she was super nervous because she didn't feel like she comes from as high class of a background. So she's like, oh, they're going to think I'm not classy enough. I don't have that kind of money. Apparently they were dropping money left and right, taking her places, nice restaurants, whatever. And I said, look, you got to understand. First of all, I asked her a question. I said, would you date a guy that worked at McDonald's? And she's like, no offense to everyone working at McDonald's out there. I'm just telling you what happened. And she goes, and I said, I would date a woman that worked at McDonald's. And I bet you 9 out of 10 men wouldn't care where the girls they were into worked. But most women, I've heard studies about this, most women won't. They want someone who's got more prestige. Resources, right. So this would be the ancient equivalent to someone who can provide, someone who can build a home, someone who can protect, those sorts of things. And it would likely, my theory, it would likely have been attractive to his mate.
So I agree with that 100%. In my mind, that like perfectly logical. My question, though, I guess to Paul, because Jeff, I think I can guess where you stand on this, is was the creation of the Acheulean hand axe, the more beautiful, decorative, ceremonial version of the hand axe, was that intuited or was that learned by trial and error? Was that a thing? Was the beauty self-evident, or did some random dude just make one and then he ended up boning a lot more chicks, and then he was like, well, I guess that worked, and then other dudes tried to copy it?
Well, no, so the dudes who were born also had that eye for beauty, and they attracted girls, right? I mean, it's
self-selecting.
So, what I'm saying, in a global context, the best summary I can give is the following sentence: that beauty, or our preference for beauty, is a Darwinian adaptation that served us well through evolution. Just like disgust keeps us away from eating things that are going to kill us. When you smell a certain smell, don't eat that. That is genetically encoded.
Yeah, but there's some beautiful poison plants out there.
No. But Jeff, it's true.
There
It's
are.
true. But our sense of fear and disgust are evolutionary traits that have served us well, just like our the things we find beautiful are Darwinian adaptations that served us well.
Okay.
So go ahead, Eric.
Well, I just want to ask because I feel like I'm constantly playing devil's advocate to both of you right now because I agree with you both, but I also agree with the other one. And this is maybe the tricky part of like having a degree in religion and philosophy, and then also being more in the camp of atheism than in the camp of theism. But so Paul, to your point about, I think it's a totally fair comp to say that our genetic hatred of disgust has kept us alive in the same way that like our genetic predisposition to be drawn toward beauty has allowed us to procreate.
Yeah, right.
But I also like anybody who has experienced disgust, like it just means you don't want to eat that thing. It can be visceral. It can be like moving in a way of just like, oh, like I hate it. Right.
Right.
But
it could be a vegetarian who's learned to hate meat.
Sure. And I could be speaking out of my ass right now, but I think, at least in my experience, there is something more deeply moving about like beauty that really hits you like in the soul. There's a thing that feels universal. There's a thing that feels bigger than the self that I don't know that I've ever experienced that with disgust. I've never felt disgust in a way that feels bigger than myself. Okay. Whereas I have felt people create, I have experienced creations, I've experienced nature and gone like, holy shit, like I don't matter at all. Like this thing that exists is so much more important than me. And how do you define that or how do you ascribe that to just like the genetic drive to survive? Because I feel like you also have experienced that same, like you have been moved to tears by a symphony.
Okay, I'll tell you what I think. I think that artists have identified these aptitudes for beauty that humans have genetically encoded and have started to exploit them.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's all about resource.
And when I say exploit, I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, and
I mean that in a great way.
No, and I knew you were going to say that because I think it's very logical. It makes a lot of sense.
Look, all of us artists know what's at the core of humanness. And we take those little knobs and we fucking turn it from a 5 up to a 6, up to a 7, up to a fucking 12 until people are weeping. Right?
Okay, what about music though? He brought up music.
Oh, I cry all the time.
All the
but
time.
Why?
What?
How much? Yeah, but what does that doesn't seem connected to all these other things? What about survival? What about mating? How is music related to those things?
Jeff, I also said I think it's in an exhaustive list. I think it's an incomplete list. Like just because science hasn't figured out how to test it.
I want to know what you think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Music? What are your thoughts? Because I just don't believe that everything is about sex and survival. I just don't. I mean, I get it. I think in part, yes. And as a theist, you mentioned that you're sort of in the camp of kind of leaning toward atheist. And I know that, Paul, you are. But as a theist, like first of all, I might be somewhat of a unique theist because I don't think evolution. I'm okay with evolution. I think
I don't think that's super abnormal.
Okay, well, if God exists, which I believe he does, he could easily use the laws of physics to create the world and everything in it, right? I don't have a problem with that. So all these things can simultaneously be true to me personally. But I also think that, I don't know, it's hard for me to believe with the experiences I've had, like Eric described, standing in a cathedral, that's just, I mean, I was in a cathedral in New York once and it brought me to tears. I'm just like, I get it. It could be exploiting my human desires to stay alive and procreate and so on. I get that. But it just, like Eric said, it seems on steroids to just be that. It seems so above and beyond.
And you can
survival.
have that same experience. You can have that same overwhelming feeling just being out in nature. And like, sure, like you could make the argument that like, sure, nature's trying to manipulate us because every animal is trying to consume us. Venus flytraps know how to manipulate like insects to attract them so that they can eat them. I get that. That's fine. That's all very logical. But there is like, the thing I can't put to bed is that sense of just like whatever this is more than me. And that is like from an evolution standpoint, I feel like that shouldn't happen. Like it is just about me, my resources, my genetic material moving forward into the world. But when you stand on the top of a mountain and look out over a valley, when you stand in a cathedral, when you hear a song, when you hear like a perfect cadence into the end of a symphony, and you just like, I am just grateful to be alive in a moment that I could experience that. Like, it's so far apart from who I am that like my existence is insignificant in relation to the existence of this thing.
Guys, I think what you're talking about is now cultural, the cultural part of beauty. We have learned.
I don't know, maybe
with music, and architecture. Perhaps that's learned culturally.
Sure. Yeah, I think those are cultural, but I don't think like I do agree with you. What I'm saying right now, using those examples specifically, is cultural because I grew up in a Western culture. But I don't think that experience is isolated to like a person within the Western culture.
I don't know, Eric. Play music for someone not in a Western culture and see if they weep.
Well, play their own music for them. See what it means.
Play your music for them, because if it's universal, you can play any music.
Okay, all right. That's fair.
It's cultural.
I'm not suggesting that Western music is universal. What I'm suggesting is like a person experiencing music is universal. Like whether it's a fucking drum line for the Neanderthal sitting around Stonehenge, right?
Yeah.
Like that is in and of itself a universal experience.
I love
Take the cultural component out of it.
Fair.
Right. I don't give a shit. Give me a 5, 4, 1.
It seems so arbitrary.
Like, I don't
sound?
give a fuck. Yeah.
Why sound?
That's a fair question. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and it would be an interesting experiment if we could find someone. Do you know anyone who's pregnant? We could start this experiment right now. But if we could find someone and put them in a dark room for 20 years, just a minor experiment.
Minor experiment.
Yeah, nothing big. And then take them out and put them in the most beautiful cathedral and see if they appreciate the beauty.
I don't think so.
You really don't think so?
Nah.
You think they'd be completely
just appreciate
numb?
Being out of a black fucking room for
talk about an unethical experiment, Jeff. You're never going to be a scientist after that comment.
No, I was going to have you do it. I'm not a scientist.
Well, I remember, I think what you're getting at is that feeling of being overwhelmed by beauty. And I do remember the last time I experienced that was the first time I walked into WTB Woodworking at 390 Pike Road in Huntington Valley, West Virginia, the sponsor of this episode.
There it is.
I was overwhelmed by the power of the grace of William T. Burkle, our Lord and Savior, praise be. Let me tell you a few things about WCB Woodworking, friends. Did you know that Memorial Day is the unofficial start of summer?
In nomine Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancto, omnipotenti.
And Memorial Day is also the day that kicks off the newest giveaway from Jet Power Tools. So if you sign up for the new giveaway, which is going from May 25th to Thursday, July 24th, you could be eligible to win a Jet DC 1100 VX CK dust collector. No idea what any of that means, but it is a dust collector and it's a horse and a half. I think that might be the dust collector I actually have in my shop, and it's pretty fucking good. Let's see, what else do we need to know? It features a vortex cone, higher velocity, high CFMs, and a 2 micron canister kit. So that's a $989.99 value. Get over there and sign up for that. $989.99. I believe that's in imperial measurements. Let's see. So the winner will be chosen Friday, July 25th at 10 a.m. on Instagram. So, I mean, listen, if nothing else, go sign up for this giveaway just so that we can artificially inflate Bill's numbers, and he will continue sponsoring this episode, because some of my favorite segments in the history of this podcast have been WTB ad spots. Okay. Chad and Bryce. All right.
It
Well,
was-
Paul, let me ask you a question, buddy.
Please.
How do you feel about gorillas?
Well, it depends in what context. If we're talking evolutionarily, I very interesting. The silverback and his little pod, very interesting. Now, if you're talking about the glue, I also like that.
The glue that's made from
It's not
gorillas?
made from. It's not made
Not
from
legally
gorillas, Eric.
legally speaking.
Eric,
it is
you
not.
are going to literally get us canceled with
hold
them.
on. We did not. In my defense, technically speaking, the ad read for Gorilla Glue has not started yet because we haven't said that
They are totally
this is sponsored by.
100%
I
going
was
to
simply
cancel us.
asking if you preferred hide glue made from gorillas.
Eric, discontinue
I'm
this
not. Okay.
this line of questioning.
All right, let me ask you about Gorilla Glue's wood glue, their yellow glue. Tell me
Yes.
about it.
I finally got a chance to use it in the shop, and I thought it was great. Quick setup time. The bond is obviously permanent, as far as I can tell. Water cleanup, like great. I didn't even know they made a wood glue until recently, so it's a nice option to have in the shop.
They sure do. Have you used the wood filler at all?
I have not. That is your jam because you're the one who loves nails.
I do. I love to nail things.
That was a diss.
So
It was a diss, Jeff. Thank you.
listen, we've been
You're
using
using
nails,
nails?
for
What
thousands of
kind
years.
of woodworker?
Just because one prick on the internet thinks he's better than nails, okay, doesn't mean that I can't use Gorilla wood filler on things like pine, and it's perfect for things like pine. I've used it multiple times. It's fantastic. It gives a very nice natural wood tone finish that was very easy to hide.
I believe they sent you about 5 gallons of it.
Oh,
Eric.
it was roughly 5 metric gallons. Yeah. And I just used the whole thing on the last project. There's
Makes
no
your
detecting.
dovetails look perfect, right?
Oh yeah. Ironically, though, they were made of walnut, those dovetails, so it doesn't make any sense to use that wood filler. So if you want to get either the wood glue or the wood filler or any other wonderful product from Gorilla Glue, you can
Polyurethane glue.
Polyurethane glue. You can go to GorillaTough.com/woodworkingisbs. That's GorillaTough.com/woodworkingisbs. Tell them that Paul sent you because they're going to cancel me after this ad read. And thanks to Gorilla Glue for sponsoring this episode.
Please don't cancel us because of Eric. Okay. All right. Moving on. So what I want to do is transition to the cultural learned part of what we think beauty is. I want to read to you guys a list of cultural things that I think, cultural trends that are considered beautiful at certain times or certain periods. I want to read you the list, and then I want you guys to go hog wild and react. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Let's start. We're going to start with some Western examples, and then we're going to transition into across cultures. So Western examples, tanning, the global tanning idea. It's come and go, whether tan skin is beautiful or pale skin. Eyebrows, sometimes they're thin, sometimes they're thick and bushy, sometimes they're penciled in. Body hair, underarm hair, not underarm hair, hairy legs, no hairy legs. Do you shave your bush? Do you not shave your bush? Also, beard, no beard. Facial hair has come and had some huge swings. Now, into other cultures, these are some fascinating examples. Ohaguru, Ohaguro, Ohaguro, for over 1,000 years in Japan, black lacquered teeth were the height of aristocratic beauty, making now universal preference for white teeth. Ohaguro. Google it right now.
I'm Googling it right now.
It's fucking wild.
Wait.
That's
OHA
so viscerally upsetting to my Western eyes.
Guro.
Can I pull it up over my face?
Yeah, for those who have the patrons who have a video feed, Jeff just
Oh,
brought
that's
it on.
frightening.
Yeah.
So this is deeply cultural, obviously.
I'm gonna read. So for over 1,000 years in Japan, black lacquered teeth were the height of aristocratic beauty, making the now universal preference for white teeth one of the most complete cultural reversals of beauty signaling in history.
That is bananas. I don't listen. I don't mean any of these things to be like culturally insensitive. I'm not knocking their culture for it. I'm just saying, like, based on my Western upbringing and what I'm seeing, like the first thought that popped in my head is when you see like in pop culture, demons, evil characters, like they're sharp, pointy teeth. Sometimes they're black teeth if you're trying to get like a visceral reaction out of something. Yeah, like it gives that kind of, it's so, I recognize
wild.
it's so just like viscerally confusing to my eyeballs.
Amazing, right?
So does that? Okay, you're making some good arguments, but does that
Okay,
prove
wait,
that?
I have more.
Oh, you
I have
got
more.
more?
Jeff,
Okay.
Jeff, please just hold that question.
Okay.
In Maori culture, an untattooed face was historically considered incomplete and unbeautiful, right? Think about Maori.
I don't know what this is.
Maori. Maori tattoos, because intricate facial tattoos was not just a decoration, but part of a living record of that person's ancestry, rank, and identity.
Yeah.
Group
Next.
from New Zealand. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude,
Next.
I gotta say, these guys look pretty sick, though.
Oh yeah, no, these
These are
motherfuckers.
tough mofos.
Okay, next, right? Padang, Padaung, Padang neck rings. So women of Myanmar, and I think I also saw Thailand, would install these neck rings starting at age 5, and it would elongate their neck to impossibly long lengths.
Well, they just
Padang-
fill with cartilage? How does that even work?
I think it makes it so that the neck can't support itself if you were to take them off.
Could you
Really?
imagine?
I think so.
That would be
Yeah.
horrifying.
I think they're on for life. Is
Oh
my
my
biological understanding.
Gosh.
Okay, 2 more. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Bananas.
If you have the video feed, Jeff just
Yeah.
put it on his video feed.
and if you don't,
my
just Google
goodness.
it on your phone right now.
Yeah,
'Cause these are really like
Wild.
interesting examples.
All right, and then we have fat versus thin, which it transcends many cultures. So Leblou, Leblouh, in parts of Mauritania, girls were force-fed from childhood to become as large as possible because obesity was considered the pinnacle of feminine beauty and a mark of family wealth. Now, in America, in Western cultures, we've had, Jeff, you could speak to this through paintings, right?
Yeah.
Cherubic examples. And then, when we were kids, in the 80s and 90s, it was, the hottest thing was to be stick thin, almost emaciated. So we've seen swings from everything over the map about weight.
Well, this one feels like the most blatantly resource driven of the ones we've seen so far. Like this is whatever. If you're in a part of the world in a time period of humanity that struggles to find food resources, obviously being fat is a sign that you have the ability to gather resources, right? And if you are in a place in a time in the world where obesity is born out of a lack of ability, and I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody. I want to be clear that I'm just thinking about this from like a broad cultural brush. If the least expensive food resources available to a population are calorically dense and overweight, obesity, etc., becomes rampant, then the thing that is quote more desirable by the people who have more resources is the ability to avoid that.
I'm glad you brought up that weight thing, because that brings up a point. Maybe not a good one, but I'm going to make it anyway. but with the painting, the women that were painted Renaissance up till even the 20th century tended to be a little more fleshy. But frankly, maybe I'm the only one. Frankly, I haven't necessarily personally followed those trends in the 80s and 90s. I've always found more fleshy women attractive, right? And not these bony girls that were on magazine covers throughout the 80s and 90s. I didn't ever find that attractive. But I understand that some men do. But I wonder, just again, it's anecdotal. I get it. That's not evidence, but it is something. And so I wonder if there can be an innate sense of beauty that we're programmed to have, but that can be influenced by culture and swayed by culture. right? So because I just don't think that like this the whole thing with the necks, the ring around the neck. Yeah, it might because people are seeing that as some sort of sign of wealth, or I can't remember what you had said. I think you said a sign of wealth.
Long necks, yeah, are
Yeah. So maybe some people were taught to see that as attractive in an economical way, maybe, but deep down, did every man find that attractive? I mean, I don't know. I mean, does culture trump our intuition always?
That's such a great
Oh,
question.
that
Jeff.
is an interesting question.
That's the question.
I mean, I know it does sometimes. I brought up in the last podcast the mullet, right? I had one. Paul, did you never admitted to having a mullet? Did you?
I never had a mullet.
You never had
no.
a. How did you?
No.
How were you so cool that you avoided the mullet?
No, I was so uncool. I didn't have a mullet.
You know the mullets
man.
are coming back, right?
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
Like, so I had a mullet back in I don't know mid '80s. You know, the whole racing stripes on the side and everything, not in my underwear, on my hair, and then now my son's 19 and he has a mullet. And I'm just like, what the hell was I thinking back in the 80s? But I have to appreciate what he's going through right now because I went through it. And so I'm like, all right, if you love the mullet, whatever. I think it looks ridiculous. But then I look back at myself in the 80s and thought I looked ridiculous. I think now that I looked ridiculous then. So yeah, so even I'm influenced by culture. But still, I'm not convinced that there isn't sort of a innate, either genetic or God-given undertone of beauty that is programmed into everyone.
Well, Jeff, isn't it both? You raised
That's what
the
I'm saying.
question.
I think it's got to be both.
Yeah, you said what trumps and which one's more powerful, and I don't know that there's a strict answer to that. I think they're constantly interplaying with each other. We have that genetic basis always, but we have so many learned opinions culturally, and like they're probably swirling together in each of us to a different degree.
Oh, I'm sure they're swirling together. I guess my point is, and you answered it, or my question would be, is there room for having it programmed into us, right?
Hell yeah.
Even though it's clearly affected by culture as well. Otherwise, these things couldn't exist, in my opinion. Black teeth.
I wonder how many of these things, though, like let's just stick to Western culture. In Western culture in the last the post-war era, right? Of the last, 80, 90 years. We know that fashion is cyclical, right? And it tends to be roughly a 30-year cycle. Okay. It's getting a little shorter right now because TikTok and everything's got to be new. Everything's got to be trendy, but we know that it has a cycle. So, I wonder how many of these. I don't know that there are a lot of universal beauty truths, right? Like there are only a handful of things maybe that are like, regardless of time or culture, like you look at the Taj Mahal. You look
cathedral,
at,
the Taj Mahal.
Yeah. You look at St. Basil's, and St. Basil's is actually the first thing. I want to come back to this later when we talked about facial symmetry. And Jeff, you brought up the rule of thirds and asymmetry. St. Basil's was the first thing that popped in my head because it so deeply encapsulates both. But you have these things that stand the test of time of like, these are beautiful across language, across culture, and we appreciate them. And I don't think you get that many of those things. They're hard to come by. Whereas like the fashion things, whatever it is, whether it's fucking bell-bottom jeans or the mullet or I had fucking frosted tips, okay, in the late 90s. All right.
Oh, I wish I saw that.
No, you don't. No, you don't. There's a reason I have never shown anybody a picture of that. But is it a thing of so many, and it doesn't necessarily have to be young people because we're talking about Western culture the last 100 years in fashion. I'll pick on young people specifically. How many of those young people see those beautiful things and go like, okay, like maybe I'm Jeff. I can intuit why that's beautiful, but maybe I don't have the restraint to say, to not say like, well, I wonder if this other thing out here is also beautiful. Maybe they're missing a thing. Maybe a mullet is fucking awesome looking. and they just haven't realized it yet.
Eric,
And then
where
they
you
go,
going, buddy?
and then they go and they get themselves a mullet, and then they realize that like, oh no, everybody's done that before. And in fact, it's not cool. It's not beautiful.
Eric,
Like maybe there's a cycle of I haven't seen it in my lifetime, so I need to rediscover why it's not beautiful.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because one thing, I could be wrong, but I think you might be off on, is that fashion is only recently cyclical.
Sure.
Right.
I was just limiting us to that
it was
example.
very linear right up until like the 70s, and then it became cyclical.
Well, it was very practical up until the 70s, until it became easy to produce garments. I just think we just
ran out of ideas. Same with music. It was very linear, and then all of a sudden we ran out of ideas, and now we're just repeating the same things. You know, I mean, I can't. When I was a kid, my dad's music was so different than my music, but now I can't tell the difference between my music and my kids' music. Like it's very different now. You know, it's not it. But I mean, I guess I don't even know my point in that. But let me bring up a point, though, that I did think about when you were talking, is that there are so many aspects of human behavior. And one of them that I think is kind of being thrown in here that might be kind of a wrench in the chain is another emotion that's related to so-called beauty in style in particular. And that is this whole idea of this desire to be part of the tribe, you know, be part of the group.
Sure.
Right. So if, you know, a lot of these styles are very, I would expect, are very motivated by that. You know, it's like, okay, this is our tribe. This is what we do. We tattoo our faces. This is a way we label ourselves to be part of this group. You know, we make our teeth black because we are this group, right? We get mullets because we are cool teenagers. And if we don't get a mullet, we're not part of the group, right? And maybe we convince ourselves of the beauty, or maybe somehow subconsciously, that's how we subconsciously justify the behavior. I don't know, but I don't think it's as simple as culture defining beauty. I think there's more to it than that.
Being part of the group is is evolutionarily advantageous.
Oh, absolutely.
As part of the group, you survive. If you're cast aside, you die alone. So I do, Jeff, your point about bandwagon effect. What is the bandwagon effect really? And in high school, all the cliques that form and being part of the in group or the out group, that is all, I think, evolutionarily based on being an accepted part of a tribe, which has deep, deep heritable origins, I would say.
Totally believe humans. That. Yeah.
Okay, Eric, I want to come back to your thing about culture and about mullets, and they come and they go. And the whole time you're talking about that, I can't help but think that the question that kept coming to me through your last series of sentences was, what makes something stand the test of time?
Yeah, that's a good question.
As opposed to all of these fads.
What doesn't come in and out? What stays?
And what I come back to, I'm going to advance a hypothesis, and you two can tear it the fuck apart. My hypothesis is when it speaks directly to those genetically encoded pieces of us as humans, it tends to stand the test of time. When it's highly cultural and doesn't really tap into those, it often fades away in 10, 20 years.
Oh, that's a great point.
That's a hypothesis. Go ahead.
I think it's a great hypothesis.
Oh, don't pat his ego out that much. Come on, let's tear it down a little bit.
Yeah. I love you, Jeff.
No. I would agree with that on the whole. I think I don't know that I would limit it to like what speaks to our genetic makeup, but like that's just, I feel like we're going to get at the same thing, but see it from two slightly different vantage points. I would suggest that maybe if it mimics something of the universal human experience, then people who transcend that culture, that language, that time can see like its reflection on that human experience. And what I'm trying to get at by that is like, so let's go back to the cathedral example, just because it's a very easy example to use. You walk into a cathedral in Italy And Paul, I don't remember which cathedral it was, but I remember you
cried.
seeing like black and white
Literally?
tile.
I did.
Like,
I
and
cried.
I talked to him on the phone. I think maybe that day or as soon
He
as you
called
got
you
back.
for comfort?
He wanted to talk it through.
He wanted a
He's
verbal
like,
hug?
he's like, I'm experiencing emotion and I don't know what to do about
Eric,
it.
I love you. I need my boo. Where's my boo?
He was in the middle of an acid trip. It was very strange.
No, I was not. I was stone cold
He was
sober.
not. But so like if you're looking up at a thing, the cathedral is that big and tall to represent gods, to represent the dome, the waters above, the universe, right?
Right.
And then you go outside the cathedral and you look up at a night sky, and what do you see but the tile work of the universe, the stars kind of reflecting back at you in the same way that and then you go to the Hagia Sophia, right? And you look up at the tile work and the mosaic work on the ceiling and on the walls, and what do you see but that same, it's the same but different. There is a universality to, like, you can see how one person went outside into the natural world, looked up into the night sky, and drew inspiration for that particular cathedral. And I think maybe that is the type of thing that makes it stand the test of time. When a person who grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York, can travel across the planet to go to the Rigas Dome, and you look inside and you can see something that resembles the experience of a human in New York or in Latvia. And you can connect the two because we live on the same planet and we look at the same stars. We trees are different but the same. Like, there's, you know what I'm getting at?
I do.
There's a
I
thing
think so.
in the
I think
natural
so.
world that is there that I don't necessarily think is genetic. I think might be, coming back to my point from earlier, just bigger than us.
Yeah. So this would be an interesting discussion in the comments. I hope people comment on this because I feel like every time I contribute, it's anecdotal. And so it'd be nice to have other thoughts on this. But I would assume that if you took someone out of the Amazon, someplace that never, I mean, I'm probably wrong. Or let me not go that far. Let me not go that far. I was going to say one of these Amazonian tribes have hardly seen anything, right? In modern civilization. But let's say you take someone out of Japan and you put them in a Western cathedral, and you take someone out of the West and you put them in this, oh my gosh, Japanese woodworking and architecture is it's just amazing, right? And I just can't imagine that just because you didn't grow up in the West, you can't appreciate, as an Asian person, Western architecture, and as someone growing up in the West can't appreciate and really feel something when you get into Japanese or other Asian architectural designs. It's just, I mean, have you guys been to the Met, in that section where you walk through all the different rooms that represent different cultures?
Mm-hmm.
And not a single one every single one, I should say, moved me majorly, right? But I didn't grow up in a lot of those cultures. But when it was done, all of them are so beautifully done. And to your point, Paul, what lasts in Asia? Asian architecture, right? The joinery, Asian joinery and stuff. Oh my gosh, that's been around for what? Millennia? And it just continues on through all those different styles of dress and teeth and whatever. But that did last. And it's
Jeff,
just extraordinary.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
But I do think that this relies largely upon the openness of the individual. That you like, the prototypical person you're describing right now is you. And it is a person that is open to other experiences and cultures and looking for beauty, where I think there is a large swath of the human population that, like, I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The open rolling hills are the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And if you never left Lancaster, Pennsylvania, you grew up in the 1800s, you took a train out to the Rockies, you'd be like, what the fuck is this? This is dog shit.
Know.
Where are my rolling hills?
I don't know.
I think those
really?
people, I think those people are in the world, like, still today, where if they have not experienced it, it is not the thing that they know and love, then it is not beautiful. If
well,
it is
I would agree that there are people that tend to not even care about aesthetics at all. Yeah, I've met those people. Yeah. They won't even look out the window when you're driving past the most beautiful landscape. They don't even care. I got that. But if you get someone at Lancaster that is remotely aesthetically driven or can appreciate aesthetics, I find that hard to believe.
No, okay. So I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that everybody from Lancaster is not open to the existence of
whatever,
beauty
you
outside of their
bigot.
culture. But what I'm saying is, I think the person that you just described, is probably the type of person who like ends up wanting to be a painter, or ends up wanting to be an illustrator or a musician. They are
maybe
open.
you're right.
They are open to the universality of beauty, perhaps in a way that the majority of the public are not.
Okay, that brings up another question then. So if there are just, as you put it, just people like me, as you put it, and I would say like you two as well, there are lots of people like us. Maybe proportionally, let's just say, I'm going to make up a random number, out of 8 billion people, maybe 25%, right? So 2 billion people are really driven by aesthetics. They really love aesthetic things, and motivated by beauty. Let's say it's 2 billion people. Why? That doesn't serve evolution.
I
think Paul disagrees by that face.
2 billion
I don't
people.
know.
Like, why would 25%, 1 in 4 people really being driven by aesthetics help the human race as a whole? It would have to be consistent across the race.
It's a good question.
No, I think these pieces that we talked about of beauty and sensing beauty are universal across, because it's not like they just bring in artists for these studies. It's just a random cross section of humans. So like all these beauty studies that bear out statistically significant are in the general population. So I think these are universal.
You disagree with Eric, you're saying. You think everyone has it.
I think everyone has some foundation, but then based on brain type, and we know brain type is all over the map, right?
Right.
In fact, our next episode, Eric, you talked about openness. The next episode that we're recording tomorrow night for the next show is on personality types, the big 5 traits of personality.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
Which includes neuroticism, openness, conscientiousness, all of these traits that come and go through the human population, and how does that relate to art? So what I'm trying to say is that I think all of us have those roots of beauty in us, genetically determined, because we're all humans. But on top of that is brain chemistry and brain, which has a lot of interplay with how receptive and open and curious or not that you are to these visual or oral signals.
Yeah, but if we break it down into purely survival, if you take, 100 dogs, all the attributes that they have genetically to help them survive, they're all going to share them. They're not going to, if it's an attribute designed for their survival, they're going to share it mutually.
And Jeff, 100 out of 100 humans probably prefer facial symmetry.
Yeah, but to
even
his
the people
point,
who
hold on,
to his point,
is that
they
true,
might not.
though?
They might.
I don't know,
but some people might not appreciate.
sorry.
Might not appreciate certain architecture or certain,
but
other types of beauty.
I'm going to go back to that point though, Jeff. Like, is it true that 100 out of 100 dogs would share the same qualities that help them to survive? Like, look, Teddy.
Well, no, wild dogs. Wild dogs.
Like, this guy's an idiot. Okay?
I'm talking about wild dogs.
I love this boy to pieces.
We've screwed up dogs.
Yeah. But like, there's gotta be that dog in the pack where everybody, like, the culture of the dogs are like, he's kind of a fucking idiot, but like, we like him for some reason, Like,
but he's still gonna find someone to mate with. Like, it's still gonna work.
Maybe, or maybe he's just like a hype man,
Eric, there's a lid for every pot, Jeff. That's what Eric's saying. There's a lid for every pot, baby.
Oh man.
All right. So let's sum up. This has been a fantastic discussion, way better than version 1. We actually got to the interplay of culture.
Yeah.
What I want from the 3 of us is a short summary of where you are at the end of the show with regards to beauty being innate or learned or cultural. I want your summary statements. Who thinks they
Summaries
can
meaning
summarize?
how we feel after having this conversation? What?
Yeah, like
Okay.
what's your worldview after this discussion?
I'm going to go last if you don't mind, because I'm still working it out.
Eric,
All
go
right.
first.
I love and respect the hell out of both of you guys, but you haven't necessarily changed my opinion on this thing. I think that there are universal standards of beauty. I think, and if that is true, then I believe that those stem out of the human experience, not necessarily out of the genetic makeup that helps us to survive and pass on our genes, or from any kind of higher being, but from the experience, the millions of generations of humans and proto-humans that have come before us that have found comfort in the places that we have existed and wanted to pay homage to those things that moved us. And so we developed those standards of beauty out of that. That might have been the most succinct summary I've ever given on this fucking podcast.
It's like you read it. It's like you read it. That was good.
All right, I'll go. I'll start by saying I think Eric's wrong.
I know. I can tell by you shaking your head the whole time.
Humans are animals, and we are governed by the same rules that every other animal on the earth is governed by, which is survival and procreation. That is the core of who we are, and beauty has evolved as a Darwinian adaptation to help us survive. We find things that will help us survive and procreate, to be beautiful and to be the healthiest version of ourselves. On top of that, as in a layer cake, we have a massive cultural piece that we learn as part of our human experience. Eric, I'm with you on the human experience.
Okay.
We learn that on top of this layer of evolutionary aptitudes. So the cultural piece is hugely important and interplays with the genetic piece to form like the final answer, which I think for each of us is different because of our different biology and our different experiences through life.
Yeah. Okay. Now I kind of wish I didn't go last, because now I have to say you're both wrong. And I'm just feel bad about it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you are the chosen one, so.
Actually, I think you're. I agree with both of you. I'm not just saying that, but I will say before I give my opinion, I still don't know. I mean, I think this is kind of an unknowable topic.
Yeah.
All of the examples that Paul, which by the way, I'm super impressed how much information you came with, but all that stuff, the conclusions are theories, right? We really don't know why for sure, but I accept that they're likely true. I also believe, like I suggested earlier, that human beings are very complex, and I tend to believe that it is not linear. There are lots of things that go into why we feel the way we do. I don't think it's just procreation and survival. But I do think it's partly that. I do agree with that. At least I suspect it is. But lastly, something to throw you a curveball, which you probably expected, but something we didn't talk about is I personally, as a theist, think that in being created in the image of God, we are driven to behave like God, and God is the creator. Therefore, we are driven to create. That's another thing that I can't shake as a theist. I also believe that. So, I'm just sort of, are you allowed to have your foot in all the camps?
I love that summary, because I feel like this, like, genuinely, this was a really good episode. It was a very genuine episode.
Yeah.
And I feel like what you just said was like, I think, but I don't know shit about fuck. And like, that's how I feel.
I don't.
That is how I feel after this episode. It's just like, it's impossible to nail this down.
It is. It seems that way. Honestly, I thought coming into it would be easier, but it's actually harder than I thought.
Well, the good thing is we're talking about it. That's what this podcast is about. It's about bringing up difficult questions. We may not find the answers. We don't really know. And it leaves us thinking. And that's why I love this. I love this for us.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing? I know you mentioned that you're doing the next podcast. and you're going to talk about personality traits. When you get to the narcissist part, can you not throw me under the bus like you did with PTSD?
No. Eric's got that. We got Eric on board.
Yeah. Yes, people often ask me what the N in EN Curtis stands for, and it is narcissus. Yeah.
That's funny. All right, y'all. If you want to hear about how Eric almost got killed by a hippo twice in Africa, join us for the after show. We'll see you there. Thanks again, Jeff.
Adios.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye, all.
Okay, bye.